Okay, I think we are ready to go. Going to share my screen. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the 11th Ward quarterly meeting for the second quarter. We're right at the end of the second quarter. We just made it. Thank you all for joining us. My name's Nicole Lee. I'm your alderman of the 11th Ward. Welcome. We're at the McKinley Park Library for our first quarterly over here in this part of the ward. So thank you all for joining us. Those of you who are online and those of you who are in the room. We've got a packed agenda for this evening. I'd like to, and a few special guests as well. I'm going to go through ward updates first, and then we'll move on to introductions of our new district, 9th District Commander Joe Mark. We'll talk about some infrastructure stuff with CDOT, and then we'll have a presentation from the McKinley Park Development Council about some updates on some really great work they're doing along the riverfront. So with that, I'm going to move on. Hello. If I can move on to the next slide, maybe. Here we go. So a handful of updates I think are very timely. Donovan Park, we're all right in here. Come on in. Donovan Park was slated to get a new field house. That was something that my predecessor, Patrick Daly Thompson, had started. Some property was acquired across the street from the Donovan Park field house. And with all the things that have happened, we have not lost track of it. We actually had our first community visioning session sometime in June, actually, where the park district came out. We had probably 30 people from the community turn up to talk about the things that they were most interested in having at the park. This is not just a conversation about the field house itself, but really, as we're going to build a new field house, what do we want to do to reimagine the entire footprint of the park? So, there were conversations about whether or not that existing little field house stays there for another purpose, or if we knock that down, we actually have a lot more freedom to play with all of the amenities that are there. So there is currently a survey that is available online. If you get my newsletter, it was listed in the newsletter. If not, look on Facebook. We publish the Facebook. We publish the newsletter every week on Facebook as well. So the link will be open until the 31st. If people feel like they want more time with that, I'm happy to ask them to keep it open longer, but we are trying to schedule right now a meeting in August for a second follow-up meeting where the park district designers would have taken all of that feedback and added some more meat around the bones to the plan. So this is sort of an iterative process, and absolutely wanting to have the community as engaged as possible. So that's what's going on there. Yes. Oh, for the next community meeting. Okay, great. Great. Thank you, Jim Harney from the Chicago Park District, for tuning in. We appreciate you. Did I go back? I hit too many buttons too fast. So September 5th for that meeting. And that will be back at Donovan Park again. So we'll make sure to remind everybody when the meeting's happening. If you're interested in that conversation, please do come out and participate. That's what's happening at Donovan. I'll stop after each one if you want to ask any questions at all. So the idea, I'll throw one thing out there because it had been out there previously, where we were thinking about trying to vacate that street in front of the field house so that we could make it one contiguous park. Unfortunately, we have found out that there's a lot of utility work under that street, so we're not able to build on top of it. So the present idea is to create a cul-de-sac essentially on one end, so that we can actually have some contiguous part of it without having without impeding access to all the utilities underground. So don't worry, there were people that asked for a pool, there were people that asked for workout rooms, space for, community space for like birthday parties. Ping pong was something else. I don't think anybody talked about pickleball. I don't think pickleball came up. But there were kids there too. So there were kids that were just really interested in like, the things that they were interested in. Can we have room for tumbling and gymnastics? So, taking all of those ideas and then really, I think the next time really thinking about how we prioritize and how sort of high up we can go in a facility like this. So if we're going to do a basketball court, it kind of limits what else you can do with the space, but please do come to that next meeting. We're excited that things are moving. This is closer than we've ever been at this point with like real design talk. So glad to be hopefully bringing that on. This design process will take the better part of a year though, just to level set some expectations there. Any questions? Any questions online? Oh, I thought they were on already. I'm sorry. My apologies. Let me go back and get out of this. Let me stop sharing for a moment so I can do that. Okay. Is that working now? Yes. Sorry about that. I did not flip the switch earlier. User error. Okay. Nope, still not ready for you, Commander. Apologies. 35th Street rezoning. So a week ago, a few of you were here for a meeting last week, along with Alderwoman Julia Ramirez. We have an effort to do a significant map amendment to 35th Street. So for those of you that are familiar with the new map, 35th Street is sort of the dividing line between the 11th and the 12th ward. I've got one side of it, and then Alderwoman Ramirez has the other. Got the east, no, I've got the north side, she's got the south side. I get all my directions confused here. But between Ashland and Damon, essentially. At one point in the history of this area, everything was downzoned to residential, residential single family. And many of the properties here were built to have commercial spaces on the ground floor and then apartments up above. And we've had people who have been interested in opening businesses who have found it very challenging to get a zoning change. It's costly, it's expensive. And this was something that I started to talk with Alderwoman Abarca about when she was, in her term. And I was really pleased that, Alderwoman Ramirez felt the same way about it. And what we did was we had a long community process. We had a little bit of a hiatus because of some issues in between. But last week we presented our proposal that really sort of left out any single family homes because there are some single family homes that front 35th Street. We kind of left them out of that, but we are going to be proposing a map amendment at the September council meeting that would upzone the majority of these properties to B2-3. That's B3-2. Sorry, I flipped it. B3-2. Let me just make sure we all have that straight and I'm quoted properly on that. So we're excited for that. We do believe that this is going to be the first step to helping to bring more life to the street, more businesses. We know that part of what has to naturally happen is adding a little bit more density to the area. We want walkable neighborhoods. We need to have more people walking around. I think that's going to be good for everybody, not just here in McKinley Park, but all around the region, whether that's Brighton Park or on into Bridgeport as well. Any questions on that? Anything, Zoe? Oh, yes. For the properties that were not clearly like commercial on the ground floor with apartments on top, whether they were townhomes, single families, or just some other odd sort of nondescript classification. We left those out because in our first meeting, there was some interest on the parts of some of those property owners to not be a part of it because, if there was always going to be a single family home, they didn't see the purpose or the use in participating in the upzone. So we are giving those individuals an opportunity to opt out. We will be communicating via mail, snail mail with everybody to give them the opportunity through the month of August to let us know if they would like to opt in to the upzone. Okay, Palmisano Park. How many people have been by Palmisano Park recently? Have you seen the the pond. Could you see the pier? It's been slowly disappearing. Because of all of the rain that we've had and because of a problem with the pump in the bottom of the pond, the pier just sort of disappeared because the water level got so high. And it's been inaccessible and unusable for the better part of probably the last month and a half, almost two. So we have had the water department go out and work with the park district. So they have been able to pump out some of the water. I'm not sure if it's enough to sort of clear the pier yet, but it is something that is a work in progress right now. But we do have, I believe the right people working on this right now to get that more usable for everybody. Unfortunately, with some broken parts in that pond, it's been really difficult to pump water out. And then there were some high sulfur readings. So that's a man-made pond. It's not a naturally occurring one. So, you know, it needs to be aerated as well. So we want to make sure that we're able to get folks fishing in that pond. I think that's been a very big missing thing. And it's a beloved activity at the park, but we are working on that. Yes, ma'am. Palmisano's across from McGueen. Yeah, the mountain, yes. Yeah. Where the quarry used to be. There's a pond, yeah. You gotta get over there. You might find some peace over there. I don't know. But there, yeah, there's a fishing pond. And it's meant to be an accessible pier. It was intentionally built that way because we have a lot of individuals with disabilities that use our parks as well, people that are wheelchair bound. And they should be able to get out on that pier, and currently they are not. So we have an accessibility issue right now as well. I will say on the ward updates part of this, and I think this will sort of roll into Commander Mark as well. At our parks, at a lot of different places, we're starting to see more graffiti tagging. When you see stuff like that, we'd appreciate it if you would call and let us know, let the park people know if it's at the park. The more people that are notifying city resources about this, the quicker we can get things taken down. You know, things have seemed to popped up a little bit more in terms of frequency of graffiti in different parts of the ward. You know, I spoke with someone here during the 35th Street zoning meeting as well, just about some increased activity around that. So, you know, we do rely on our neighbors and all of residents to be able to help keep us informed of those types of things that are going on. As I say all the time, if we don't know that there's a problem, there's little we can do to help fix it. So with that, if there are no questions about Palmisano Park, go ahead. So if you're willing to call 311, we always appreciate that you do. Then give us a heads up with the service request number. We do get a report of them. But it also helps when we can help chase things down too. You know, you know, if it's happening a lot in different places in the ward, I don't know necessarily how coordinated some of those efforts are, but I know that if it's on someplace, if it's on someone's house, we want that down as quickly as possible. You know, we want it down as quickly as possible in general. But we do have a good relationship with the Streets and Sands Graffiti Blasters team. They stay on top of it. I mean, they work all the time on this stuff. So we appreciate all their help with it. Always, if you can file the 311, give us a heads up about it, then we can always follow up on it. Because sometimes what will happen is something might get closed out and it's not done yet, then we won't know about it at that point either. Yeah. Are there any other questions in the chat? Okay, great. And then we'll move on. And now I can do this properly. It is my honor and my pleasure to introduce you to our new 9th District Commander, Joe Mark. He is a veteran of the Chicago Police Force. He's also been at the 9th District. He'll give you his whole background, but you know, I've known Joe a long time, and I'm so incredibly proud that he is now commander of our district. So with that, welcome, Joe.
Thank you. New commander of the 9th District, only been in my office for about a week and some couple days. So, but I'm a veteran of, as Alderwoman Lee said, I've got almost 26 years on the job. Been a sergeant. I've been a lieutenant here in the 9th District for 7 years. I've worked every watch from midnights, afternoons, days. I was a tech lieutenant here for two years. In that capacity, I've always been behind the scenes, operational, but obviously now with my new role, you'll be seeing more of me. I'll be the front guy. Like I said, I'm honored to be part of this and, you know, just to work with you guys to make our community safer. You know, my job is to provide best police service possible and ensure public safety. So, you know, that's what I want to do. I know there's a lot of issues going on, as Alderwoman Lee said, you know, there's stuff going on. Graffiti for one, great question. Call her office for 311. You can also call my CAP's office. We do city service requests too. It seems to work a little quick, especially with gang graffiti, which we noticed by 29th Popular over there by Palmisano Park.
Mhm.
We also had some instances recently at 33rd Street, just west of Halsted. So if you do see graffiti, just notify us. We'll try to get on it. We don't want to get out of hand. So, yeah, that's a little bit of my background. I look forward to working with you guys. So if you guys have anything, I have a great CAP's office. We have great personnel. I've been very lucky to stay in 9 because I do know the personnel. I've been there 7 years, so I do know the people. We have a good staff, from my admin staff all the way down to every watch, lieutenants, pack. They're out there making arrests. So yeah, we're out there doing it. I know there's some complaints, but if you have something to bring to my attention, I'll try to work with the officers and you know, if it affects you personally, we'll try to work on it. Any questions? Just
No, there will be, in the Chinese, we always wanted to make sure that there were police officers on the mission.
Mhm.
How are we?
We are doing very well with that. Since I came on a job, I think I was, or very few of Asians in general. I think I may have been like one of a handful of Chinese. Although my Chinese isn't that great, you understand a little bit, but you know, it's one of those things if you don't use it 40 years. But we do have quite a few Chinese speaking. Obviously, there's language barriers. We have Spanish speaking as well. Language barriers within our community here. We have Spanish, Chinese. So we do have, I think we have the most Chinese speakers in the city on every watch. Try to make it accessible for every watch to have a couple. Because obviously, and then also we do have personnel we can call if they're not on duty that day. We have resources with just to, you know, there's always that language barrier. Yeah, we understand that. Yep.
Yeah, hi. I'm a reporter with McKinley Park News, and I've been at every 9/12, just about every 9/12 meeting over the last 3 years. And I know Alderwoman can attest, certainly over the last year, that the biggest complaint is the street racing. And so I was wondering if you can address that, if there's anything special that I know there's area-wide or citywide teams, or is there anything special that your folks can do?
That is a big issue. Since I've been here 7 years, it has been steadily getting worse, I would say. We do have missions. We have resources to combat it. Unfortunately, this is a citywide thing. They congregate a certain area and they just have a plan to just drive all around. We've ran missions in the past. We've utilized a traffic unit, also helicopters. We've had a couple arrests. Unfortunately, these are so organized and they pop up so quickly, and we have to keep on our social media to kind of find out where they pop up. But we do have entire citywide teams notifying us. I get alerts all the time about you know, where they're going to go through 1st District, 9th District. They start heading our way. We kind of put our cars there just to make sure they don't stop and take over an intersection, which has unfortunately happened in the past. We try to stay on top of it, but it's a difficult thing. But we know about it. We're going to try to, you know, just keep up the fight. Basically, it's hard to.
Can you use spike strips?
Spike strips, we cannot. We do utilize stop sticks now. We do know of there's certain areas that we know they congregate, and we have cameras there. And obviously, once we get information that our TAC teams go out there, we've utilized stop sticks in the past. It's different from spike, where you throw it out and pull. These are individual, maybe about 2 foot stop sticks. Toss it underneath the car, and when they run over them, deflates the tire within a few seconds. So it helps, but unfortunately, these guys just keep going sometimes. But it does help. We've actually utilized them in some arrests recently too, within the past few months.
I know that we had occasion to work with the police district, for a time in Chinatown because they love the backdrop of the gateway. We had like 2 consecutive weekends and then there was a third one that was planned that was foiled because we were able to via social media get sort of a heads up about what was being planned, and then we had police resources just kind of making sure that they were in the area and nothing bubbled up. I mean, they may have attempted it, but nothing like what they had previously done was executed on. So, appreciate all of that. I can also say that the CDOT has a pilot that they're working on right now where they're placing strategically. They're like little mini speed bumps that just kind of get in the way. They're not, completely obtrusive to regular drivers. But if you're wanting to drift around and do donuts in an intersection, it will ruin your time. So we can, when CDOT gets on here, we can talk to them a little bit more about that. Kate, did you have something else? Yeah.
Obviously, we're to force our way out of this situation because of the act. And so I wondered from your perspective, especially given that there's about to be a lot of road work in McKinley Park, Archer and Western are both for a makeover to improve conditions for buses. If there are other tools that would help you to do this better that could be incorporated since the changes are coming red.
Those are main thoroughfares. It'd be difficult to implement speed bumps there. What I like are the speed bumps as well. When we said those are good, those are effective for within the community, smaller streets and stuff. Even the turnarounds, so you can do roundabouts at certain intersections. Those are highly effective to they have to slow down to get around those. So those are effective, but on a main thoroughfare, I doubt we could utilize something like that. Again, the main thoroughfares, they usually just go through our district. They don't tend to congregate. Unfortunately, we monitor and follow them, and they go to Ford City a lot. So they go through our district from downtown, take Archer, Western, or whatever it may be, and try to. So they go through our district a lot. They don't really take over. There has been instances, but they're going from one place to another. And for us in our neighborhood, we just want them through. Obviously, we would like them not to come through us, but unfortunately, we have those main streets that they like. But as far as on a main thoroughfare, it'd be difficult to make those speed bumps. So too much meat.
Yep.
Okay. Yep.
But and plowing, yeah, it gets really tricky.
Well, but the best, instead of being reactionary, if we can do preventive, get a heads up, social media. We try to say we have a good social media team as well. Stay on top of all this stuff. So we do get a heads up. We kind of put our resources in place. So we get blue lights going. They see us. Hopefully they just keep going.
Mayor Mark, does the 9th district have access to any pod cameras, like portable pod cameras?
Portable pods, I don't believe we do unless they give us the feed. But
Okay.
we do have an immense amount of a network of pod cameras within our district, and we're pretty effective too. Our SDSC room in the 9th district, they're on top of it. We get a robbery just occurred to try to track the car first and check the plate, and then we can put it into a plate reader across the city. Try to track this plates. It's been effective. So it's a good tool that we have, LPRs.
Yeah, and we just, I see John here, he's from Canaryville. There was just a neighbor, someone in and around, was it 43rd? Yeah.
This morning, 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was I think that was a Nissan Maxima or Altima that was stolen from Zion. Yeah. They followed it here. They did a carjacking, took a red Durango. That Durango they chased all the way to, or they followed all the way to Wisconsin. They did recover the victim's car, and as a matter of fact, we just recovered the offender's car not too long ago in 54th Princeton. So Zion Police they're working on that. They recovered the car and bring it out there to process. So hopefully they'll be able to get the offenders. It's a lower workload out there, so we'll be able to turn around.
Yeah, they don't have quite as much going on out there, unfortunately.
No, that was carjacking 1 o'clock in the morning. At gunpoint, yes. Just gotta be aware of your surroundings. And again, if they do, God forbid, they come up on you, they got to jump on you, just give them your car. It's property. right? We do not try to engage. We had that incident in Chinatown where the Lyft driver, Uber driver honked the horn, tried to save the person that was getting robbed. I mean, I commend him for that, but it's very.
He got shot himself.
Got shot.
Yeah.
Luckily, he survived. He tried to do his part because he, Good Samaritan, fortunately, he took a bullet. We don't want that.
Yeah,
You know, if you do, for you tell your friends, family, come across, getting robbed, just give them their stuff. Don't fight, don't confront, because property is not worth your life.
if you see it happening, call 911 on their behalf,
Yes.
right? That's the best thing that we can do. Do it. No,
Best thing you do is call us, try to get a great description, car description, offender, clothing, and if possible, plate, a license plate, that would be.
I have one of those police signs, guys. So we have with us here,
They
some-
stick out.
some signs that we produced, that we have at the ward office. And we have them in Chinese and English. It's for you to put in front of your window that just lets would-be, criminals know we call police. On the back, though, it gives you really great instructions on how to give good descriptions, right? Clothing people can change real easily. They can throw on a hat, but yeah, shoes, they don't typically change. So, there's a lot of stuff that you wouldn't necessarily think about, when giving a description. So if you want to be most helpful, like follow some of these instructions. How tall is a person? What are they driving? What the car look like? What kind of shoes did they have on? And this, I think, becomes very helpful. And again, we have this in Chinese and English. We're getting some in Spanish as well. We have some at the back of the room. And for those of you who aren't here in person, you can stop by the ward office at any point to pick these up. Yeah, but whatever we can do to help the police as well, and to help our neighbors, in terms of, just keeping an eye out for one another. If you see someone's got a package on their stoop and you're already home, pick it up and bring it inside. Don't just leave it sit outside, because in all likelihood, we've got porch pirates all up and down the ward and across the city. That's just easy pickings. Yes, and then let your neighbor know that you brought it in. And hopefully your neighbors. I mean, that's the other thing, right? I mean, get to know your neighbors, absolutely. Because that's how we're gonna combat some of this stuff back. I mean, obviously, we're living in the time that we are. We don't want people to get hurt. So whatever we can do to just stay on top of calling the police when we need to, and then looking out for our neighbors. I think that's the best we can do at this point. Try to help curb some of this stuff. Any other questions for Commander Mark? So we have National Night Out coming up.
August 6th, yes, that's really out. If you guys have any issues, we have a great CAPS office, you just reach out to us.
Yeah.
Officer Cito's in the back here, she can give you the number. Actually, it's 312-747-3510. It's a number to the CAPS office. Just give us a call, you have any concerns, we're working on it.
Officer Cito loves having her picture taken, by the way.
Loves
Make
it.
sure you
Yeah,
get a picture
absolutely.
taken with her on the way out. Just kidding. I want her still to like me. Ping Tom,
1700. Ping Tom Park.
I'm sorry, is that by the field house,
Field
the Leonard Louis Field House? So, yeah. So just north of 18th Street on Wentworth.
1700.
Okay. We're going to move to CDOT. I think we have some guests with us.
I think you have one guest, Alderman. You got me tonight, Jim Bolster. Alonzo's at another ward meeting, so you're stuck with me.
Well, I love having you on our meetings, Jim.
Thank you.
Bolster, for being here with us. Jim is our liaison from CDOT. He is sort of a wealth of information. We asked Jim and Alonzo to come on. Alonzo may still join us. But there's a lot going on from an infrastructure perspective. We've started putting in the newsletter just when things were scheduled to be done. And I know a lot of these things are delayed. We're not throwing Jim under the bus for any of this, but what we wanted to do is to bring him on to talk about some of the major projects that we have going on. We have approved a lot of projects this year that because of the weather that we've had, the really crazy weather that we've had as of late, and all of the storms have really sort of delayed a lot of projects, as well as some of the bigger events that we have going on in and around the city, not the least of which was NASCAR Lollapalooza or this little thing called the DNC. But Jim, can we talk a little bit about like major projects that we have going on in the ward? That are notable for folks that where they're gonna, you know, see bigger work going on?
Well, as you know, with your help, we just authorized, a bunch of streets for resurfacing within the ward. We met in Chinatown recently. We're going to do the new lighting in Chinatown on Wentworth. We talked about getting to the commander's point. We will be installing anti-drifting devices at 22nd and Wentworth and 22nd, and I believe it was Archer. I believe those are the
Yes.
ones that were brought up. Those are with our sign shop folks now. Unfortunately, like you said, the DNC is taking a lot of our crews as we're preparing for that, but it is in our queue to get those installed. Our goal is to get you to spend your menu dollars, and you have done a great job doing that this year. And, you know, we look forward to starting the work out here shortly. I've been sharing schedules with Zoe and your team. If they need anything else, we'd be glad to help. As you know, CDOT is responsible for everything within the right of way, from lighting to alleys, curb and gutter, sidewalks, you name it, anything within the right of way comes through CDOT.
Yep. Thanks for that, Jim. And, you know, we've been working really hard on the menu. We know, we get the calls every day. If there's a trip hazard in front of your house and you've called it in, check in with us. You know, we're trying to get a better handle on all of the requests that have come in. Jim just talked about the menu. We get $1.5 million a year, regardless of the size of your ward. And we don't have a small ward. It's pretty big with a lot of its own needs. And we're asked to request estimates for about 2.5, knowing that, you know, for whatever reasons, we might not be able to get everything done in 1 year. So if you've come to talk to us or talk to somebody in the prior office and something hasn't been done yet, give us a call and like, we'll tell you where it is sort of in the queue, like if it was requested previously and maybe why we weren't able to do it. Very common request for us is alleys. Alleys, and there are many alleys that don't have drains in them, and it causes flooding or it's maybe deteriorating. That's something that is not simply fixed by a repavement of the alley. What we need to do in all likelihood then is to dig a drain and then pour concrete. So it's a cement or concrete alley, and those are really expensive to do. In fact, you know, we really only get to pay for one of those a year. It's almost $300,000 to do one alley. So it could have been if you requested it, CDOT may have excluded it because it has to be a green alley. We simply don't have the funds to necessarily do the alleys in that way. So we're trying to prioritize and get to the worst alleys first, and we're picking away at it. CDOT has for the last couple of years through the capital program given us a green alley as well. So we might be able to get 2 done a year, but you can imagine with the number of alleys that we have, we're not getting them nearly as quickly as we'd like. So, you know, we're continuously trying to find ways to address those, but, you know, I say that all to say that we hear all of you who have been coming to talk to us. We wish we had more, you know, money and resources to get these done quickly. For those of you who have sidewalks that may be like, you know, coming up because of a route and it's a trip hazard, those are, I think, easier fixes that we can get to CDOT more quickly. That doesn't necessarily have to be like a whole, you know, sidewalk being redone, but if it's, you know, 1 or 2 squares because the tree roots are coming up. We certainly don't want people tripping over those, especially the many seniors that we have in the community. Those sorts of things we can always work to prioritize more quickly, obviously, while we're trying to get all of the scheduled menu items done as well. But as far as the lighting goes and on the whole issue of public safety, that's been an area where we've been very focused. And as Jim said, you know, we've been working hard to update the lights in Chinatown. Those are coming. They're going to be changed from those, you know, yellow bulbs to the brighter ones. There will still be, even after this menu year, certain blocks that don't have enough lighting. So what we do in those cases is that, you know, we're looking to install new ones or figure out how we can add lighting. But simple fixes that we can do there, and this is something that forestry can help us with, is if the current lights are being blocked by tree branches. Though that's one of the first places we look if a street is dark, look to see where we can trim trees. And then also if street signs aren't visible, that's also if tree branches are blocking those as well. we can have those done as well. You know, CDOT does a heck of a lot of stuff. They do cover everything on the parkway, curbs and gutters and all of that. And signage is another one. So because we don't necessarily have a survey of every single crosswalk in the ward, if you feel like a crosswalk that you frequent needs restriping, let us know. That's an easy 311 request. We can get that in and the team can come out and restripe it. The participatory budgeting team has been very focused on pedestrian safety as well as beautification. You're going to be seeing more out of them probably at the next quarterly meeting about some of the results of the work that they're doing. But things like updating signs, if there's a street sign that's faded, if there's a street sign that's pulled down, that's a sign of gang activity. That's how they mark territory. If you see that, please, please, please call 311 so that we can get those signs replaced as quickly as possible. That's just like graffiti. Go ahead.
See, you have the arrows on the speed bumps.
Yes.
One on this since October, for the ones that are on 29th between Austin and Poplar, the light is totally gone. Yes, over the year.
Between, excuse me, right by McGuane.
What was that, Alderman? I didn't hear that.
The stripes on the speed humps by McGuane Park on 29th between Halsted and Poplar. There's a couple of them. And we are working on some traffic calming and like pedestrian safety things there right now with the participatory budgeting for those. Yeah, if we can get those restriped, I think people are finding it harder and harder to see. And I've done that a few times in a few places too, where I don't remember where I am and I don't see it. And then the next thing you know, yeah. Yep. Zoe, do we have anything in the chat that we need to look at? Okay, great. Anything else for CDOT? Like I said, lights, we've been really focused on. There's a few like troubled areas where we still have places in the ward that are WPA streets where there were never any like gutters or sewer drainage systems put in. So, slowly but surely, we're trying to find ways through capital programs to get some of this work done. Yes, Kevin.
We talked about anti-drifting devices by Chinatown.
Yes.
Talk a little bit more about that and what that is.
Jim, do you want to talk about the pilot that CDOT has with the anti-drifting stuff?
The anti-drifting devices, they're at the intersection, of course, and they extend the turning lane, like from the left turning lane. If you could picture that, it almost looks like a alley speed hump, a rubber speed hump that comes out into the intersection, maybe 15 feet. And within those rubber humps, there is the delineators on there. They're a little stronger than the bike lane delineators, but if a car's tire hits those speed bumps, it'll probably flip the car over, and the delineators will also damage the car. So we put on each crossing, north, south, east, and west, so it reduces their they can't drift in the intersection.
Yeah, the area that they have to drift is smaller. So I can tell you where I've seen this nearby is at Loomis and Cermak. At that intersection, they have those there.
I just want to say another thing. The commander and the alderman are correct. We have this all over the city, drifting and street takeovers, and our phones every Monday morning blow up because of these things. And the police just can't keep up with it. We're doing our best to curb this as well. So as a group, I think we're coming up with some good ideas, and they seem to be working.
This is gonna go at Cermak and Wentworth. And then Cermak and Archer. Cermak, Archer, Princeton, in that area. We've got some pretty big intersections in Chinatown. And where they were doing the drifting was right at Cermak and Wentworth in front of the gateway. Yes.
They're all over social media.
Yes.
Or so we take over an intersection, and drifting they just keep doing donuts. It's dangerous, of course.
I'll probably be one of the thoughts, there was a CNAT, or maybe streets.
Mhm.
And so,
Yeah, let's talk about that, because we did recently do a site visit with some SSA folks about some improvements that we know going into next year, we're gonna be able to leverage some other work from a capital perspective, that will, I think, match some of the improvements that then, we don't necessarily have to pick up the tab for, because there's already work going on.
it was just-
Yep, for sure. Any other questions for CDOT? Oh, so,
Yeah, so CBCC and CMAP had done. Plan looking at. Improvements on Wentworth, I think the plan was shared, I think CMAP shared with CDOT, don't. CMAP shared. Should just share with the dog.
so just to make sure that that was made clear, Grace Chan McKibben from the Coalition for a Better Chinese American Community, CBCAC, was just mentioning that a study and some recommendations were done by CMAP recently.
Yeah.
And that was shared with CDOT. She wanted to make sure that I had access to it to ensure that we're aligning with some of the recommendations that CMAP had made. Okay, great. Well, thank you, Jim, for joining us.
You're welcome.
I'm sorry I couldn't take you out to dinner tonight, but you are in your living
Well, you're
room.
still
and
on the hook.
Yes, you have a standing rain check, my friend.
Okay,
Thanks
thank
so
you.
much. And thanks for all the hard work, and like for everybody else that's out there. If there's an infrastructure issue, if there's a sign issue, all of those things, send it our way and we'll make sure that we get our friends at CDOT on it as quickly as possible.
Thank you,
Thanks a
guys.
lot.
Good night.
Good night. And then with that, we are going to transition over to Kate Eakin from the McKinley Park Development Council, who's with us tonight. I'm gonna make her the host. And then we're gonna try to have her share her deck. Hold on one second. Hold on. You ready? I'm gonna make you the host. Okay, you are older host now. It's a big responsibility. So I can't see your screen. Are you sharing? Yes, we're in. I'm gonna pull this microphone a little bit closer to you.
I'll see that.
So hi, I'm Kate. So those of you who don't know me, I'm the president of Park Development Council. It's my colleague Eladio.
Montenegro, also part of the development council.
Yeah, and so, so tonight we really wanted to be able to talk to you about some work that we're doing on the riverfront. And cooperation with actually quite a few people in this room, so thank you. And so first, just for those of you who don't know us, to tell you a little bit about who we are. So our mission at MPDC is to take care of our neighbors, to organize, inform, and support neighbors in building the community that we want to live in. And that has several different facets, including our physical plans, our cultural assets, and building the community at large and economic opportunity. And this is our vision, a diverse, vibrant community of neighbors working together to shape our collective future. We can already have a diverse and vibrant community of neighbors. It's really about creating space for people to express themselves and our neighborhood. So leaders and projects. Oops, I should bring it up. So basically what that means that we do is we advocate for our neighbors, and that includes things like this, where we're informing residents about things that are coming into the neighborhood, Engaging neighbors to see what people want in the neighborhood, creating opportunities for neighbors to participate in processes for things that are happening, and also to take all that information about and then go advocate for it, which is also part of. And certainly grateful to have our partnerships with our partners here with CBCAC and Bridgeport Alliance, and of course the 11 Board Conference. So some projects that we have been involved in include the McKinley Park Neighborhood Plan, the revitalization of 35th Street, which I spoke about earlier. This picture up here is a redevelopment of an existing building on Pershing. That's gonna be a new mixed-use development, a lot of housing and some small commercial. That's the old Quartermaster Depot, for those of you who are manufacturing district. And also, advocacy around the riverfront, and I chose the picture of the titles, I think that's the highest profile thing, for those of you who are less familiar with the area. But we want to talk about the fun part of something, not just the complicated stuff. So we are here tonight to talk to you about the South Branch connectivity project. Last month, we published our framework plan. There are several copies of it on the back table also, so we invite you, if you want to pick up one of the books and follow along, and there's 2 of my colleagues here right here. Those are actually meant for everybody to touch and check out. So feel free to get up and grab, we're gonna show you on the screen, but also feel free to get up and grab one. And there's a QR code on each book where you can see digital copy of the plan. And continue to look it over and check it out. So Eladio talk to you a little bit about the intro of the plan.
Yeah, so the purpose of the plan is to create a framework plan, right, for how we turn our riverfront into an asset like it is on most of the north side. Down here, it's a lot of empty lots, business working on there. And over the years, they've been starting to turn over, and we built parks like Park 571 and Ping-Pong Park and Canal Orchards Park. And so the plan is to build a trail from Western to Ping-Pong Park for people to walk or cycle down. Get people off of Archer, which is the street, very dangerous for bicycle folks. Improve access to our orange line stations, get people to the riverfronts, and just create new and better spaces for McKinley Park, Bridgeport, Chinatown, and all Hills and one. And so this is a picture of our first map, right? It took the current designated bike routes to get from Western to Ping-Pong Park. We got to do all this working around because there isn't a whole lot of bike lanes in the neighborhood. And our plan kind of streamlines it. And the goal is to get you from Western to Ping-Pong Park along the riverfronts. And away from the streets. So a lot of what's going to help us with that is the current river design guidelines set by the city. So that requires anybody who buys property on the river and develops it to create a public path for you to walk and bike on. So it requires 30-foot setback, a 10-foot walking path, bumpers on the side, specific trees and plants to be put down. So this is anyone. So if someone buys a plot of land on the river and decides to build a warehouse, they have to build a path with those fences. So there's an example of that now over on Western. If you've seen it right behind the train station, the also Western train station. A company called Prologis bought the helicopter pad. There's nothing down also in Archer for a while. They bought that property, built a warehouse for Amazon. Been empty since they built it, because Amazon didn't need it. But they had to build a public walking path. So if you go there now, there's a path from Halsted to maybe a quarter mile to the comment substation. With the 10 feet, with light, with seating. And so as properties turn over along the river, they'll have to do more or less this. And so see it, you can head there now, it's very nice, and we'll just throw Euro up there. The part of our plan is to connect them, because guidelines require you to build a path, but they don't have to connect it to anything that's next to it, right? They just dump out the street. So a big part of our plan will be to how to connect them and how to create paths on the properties that aren't completely turning over, like online substations, places owned by railroads, and places where no one's going to be turning in. And how to connect them to each other.
So do want to point out that we have a lot of help with this. We're not doing this alone. We are a very small organization, but we're really pleased to have CBCAC with us and our first. Thank you.
So we actually have been interested in figuring out a southern access to Ping-Pong Park for this time. So when Ping-Pong the one so because their grander project of connecting different branches. There are many challenges, as you know, there's only one official entrance to Ping-Pong Park and it's pretty obscure. And then of course the water has to be access as well. Eventually, there should be a connection from the downtown Riverwalk into Ping-Pong Park from the southern entrance. The southern access is very problematic because of the river that's to the south.
But also to Grace's point, and the city has decided that the downtown Riverwalk will extend south of Roosevelt into 78 will connect to Park. And so that means if we're able to connect to the other end of Park, Ping-Pong Park, eventually, one day, you will be able to ride all the way from Western to the lake with no cars. And that would be a really big improvement for traffic safety and green space, general health outcomes. Matt, you said Bridgeport Alliance has been really good to us too.
Just want to add on to your say that I think the timing of this river would not be better because for the first time in a very long time, river is coming from the nuisance to something tolerable to something really desirable in a matter of generation. So the river really became one of our greatest assets as communities. As Chris mentioned, the Riverwalk is a big down from downtown. But there are challenges with making use of our built environment. It's very divided with a lot of buildings that go right in the river. And so what they've effectively created is a plan for how to stitch it together. A lot of stitching that's required. But it would not at a better time. We're very fortunate that there's now interest in developing land that is uninhabitable. And so all of the factors are like coming together all at once and just put something that puts the assets at the front of it, right at that exact thing. It's supposed to be.
No, that's absolutely right. Two of our partners who are not in the room that I want to mention are UIC, who's been really good to us. They gave us an entire springtime course for graduate students this year to work out some particular things around Bubbly Creek and the area around Bubbly Creek that I could see tonight. And also the National Park Service. So the first year of our work that produced the plan, I encourage you to go touch was funded by Chicago Community Trust, but since that funding went out, the National Park Service has actually stepped in to figure out implementation, thinking about signage and programming, and we really want to offer more opportunities to get out on the river and make those opportunities culturally appropriate to who lives on the river, which is the first wide spectrum of people from a lot of different backgrounds. So that's all pretty exciting. And we will be, as things move ahead, having some more community involvement opportunities with the Park Service. So we have done a lot of community engagement to get to the plan. We had over 600 neighbors who participate. 16 public events and counting. We will be continuing to do public events. We have a canoe paddle next weekend at 571. And we're also be doing some bike rides to help people get out to see it. I also wanted to share the data too, that, like I said at the beginning, like our job is to advocate for neighbors. So I want to take a minute to point out that a lot of this came from neighbors in the first place. This is a CDOT study where they surveyed and they said, hey, if we could do any of these 8 things, what do neighbors want? And I'm happy to report that our plan includes all of them, including riverfront trails, a kind of bridge across Bubbly Creek, improvement to the CTA Orange Line access, easier access to Mariano. So that's all in here. And with very strong participation from the 11th ward, 80% of people who responded to CDOT live in Bridgeport, and Kinley Park being the next biggest group. So that's really great. We want to give people what they want. So the plan itself. So this is our study area coming from Western over here, all the way to Ping-Pong Park along the river. The parks that are in lime green
are what's already there. So as you can see, there's like big gaps between existing sections, and one of the things we want to do is fill those in and take advantage of what we already have. One of the things, while a lot of this will eventually get built by ordinance, what's unique about the plan is it's really the first time anybody thought about it as transportation. When the city passed the ordinance, initially, they were just thinking about making sure you could get to the riverfront downtown. They didn't, but now that it's expanded out to neighborhood, we're really trying to think about this. This is a way to get to the city, especially safely in non-motorized ways. So these are some general recommendations, using materials that we have, taking advantage of some of the cool industrial relics that we have, preserving the parks that are cool, and then making sure that everything is, but still giving it a real sense of place and honoring the history of what we do have on the riverfront. You know, so some of those red brick buildings, for example, or some interesting pieces of equipment that may remain as lots turn over. And we're thinking about this as 3 spots. So from Western to Damon, Damon to Halsted, and Halsted to Queen Palm. Tonight, in the interest of time, I'm going to focus mostly on the middle section. Which is also, I think, the section that will probably happen. So we'll just quickly go, so Damon to Western, and so this is, so you can see the outline of the path, and I want to point out that there's existing parks in this segment. Canal Park Riverwalk, Canal Origins, and Park 71. And here, same map, different view. I want to point out the properties that are in hot pink. The properties that are in hot pink are in transition already. So what Matt and Grace will said about timing is actually really, really important, because economic conditions are causing these lots to turn over, which means that if we can get in front of it and work with developers and work with the city as they work with developers to build those requirements, we hope to get more than the minimum. So here, down by Daily Boat Launch on the mystical third leg of Western Avenue, that they have a for sale sign out front. So we expect that to turn over soon. This is BNSF. That's gonna be a little harder because railroads are railroads. And this is the Damon Silos, which has been very high profile. And the Army Corps on Friday did announce what they are rolling on the demolition plans. It will be moving ahead. There will be community assets to come out of it. But when they do build, they will have to meet the same requirements as anyone else. And move forward with this public access, and because of the way Army Corps did it, the public access will definitely be more.
Kate, that BNSF property,
Yes.
they aren't live tracks there anymore. That's just like a dead bed over there. It's a spur rail to move cars around. Yeah, okay,
If you, they.
okay.
So we've been talking to the NSF for.
Mm-hmm.
Over the review. Said, oh yeah. But they're looking.
Okay, just for me, for the next time I talk to them.
Please. Please do. Yeah, so we are asking not for the, easement over the entire property, but just enough to put a path on it. And there's plenty of space out there to do that in a way that doesn't interfere with the tracks.
It's not necessarily my ward, but obviously I've got, relationships there, and we have a little BNSF in another part of the ward. I know this is the 12th ward that we're looking at right here. Yeah.
Actually, Representative Ma's office has been our primary liaison there. I could certainly welcome all of them. Yeah.
But it was important because of 2 hot things.
Right in between, yeah, so.
Yes.
Mhm.
The other ones, there's a building there, but the development is still that period.
So moving ahead, this is segment B, and what I want to spend the most time on, because it's kind of the link between the 11th and 12th ward, but also the most active part of what's happening along this path. And there's a lot going on that I think neighbors would be interested in. So again, we've got, the pictures of the same 3 parks, Canal Park Riverwalk, Canal Origins, Park 571. And some other features you'll notice here are bridges, for example, over Bubbly Creek and also over the Santa Fe Slope to ensure continuous access on Riverwalk. I'm gonna go ahead and talk to this view with properties. And you notice that these are lighter pink where, we're pretty sure. There's no actual for sale sign out front, but we're pretty sure. This lot, so here's part 571, and a lot of people don't know that this lot next to it, these two used to be one property owned by People's Gas. It's a super fun site. That means there's a lot of environmental cleanup to do. But People's Gas previously cleaned up the park that is now the park. The city took it over. It's public, I mean, we all know and love. The lot next door, they plan to clean up next year. And so we would like to find a way to capture that lot to expand the park, put it back together and increase green space there. Yeah, that park is for 7.1 becoming increasingly popular for a variety of activities. And to be honest, it can be kind of crowded if the runners are out there and people want to kayak and people want to fish. And so a big reason to expand it would be just to create more space for all those activities that neighbors have confirmed a lot. This lot next to it is Brandenburg Industrial Services. They've moved all their equipment out, they've ceased operations. They've said on the down low, we're gonna sell, but we haven't seen anything yet. And so, given the size of that lot, it might be very difficult to get the cash required for public access, but on the other hand, we certainly want to pick our neighbors. That lot is almost half a mile. It's huge.
It's the Brandenburg, it's on,
Off of Loomis.
Yes.
so they got all their equipment around there, what's the chance of opening the street again and starting?
I don't know.
It'd be nice.
Trip used to go through to,
Yes. Yes.
I did not know that.
Yeah, what did we see? What's that?
Well, that's a good question.
Very good.
I'm making a note.
Being for
So the river plan guidelines require that the property maintain their strip. Our goal would be to create an entity that would always maintain on it.
to be your state security. It's closed at a certain.
It was like at any park. From 6 to, not, mainly park, security on premises would be snow and grass.
Well, okay, so the way it works now, and a lot of people, this is all over the city, so it's part of the town, you can look at other, like parts of the north side of the. But right now, each property owner is responsible for their own maintenance. That kind of thing. They do. Although that's a little interesting too, because the state law is actually pretty generous towards private landholders who allow not totally restricted, but who allow general public access to their property. Their liability is reduced by. Yes, they do all have insurance or those respects. The city, the Riverfront Task Force is actually looking into creating a citywide entity that would like where every business owner would just kind of pay into the kitty to make sure that things are happening in a more standardized way. So like that everybody gets plowed and everybody's trash gets picked up.
All the light bulbs are changed or, yeah.
So right now, a lot of the owners of active spaces do have their own cameras and many of them choose to data share with the police department. But like I said, this is not something where we're reading. This has been the case for, since such for long. They're going back to. Which mayor, is it actually the younger or the elder Daley? The downtown, I think it's towards the beginning of the younger Daley.
Oh, with
So
the river, with the river walk,
initial
work, yeah.
walk. So, did you want to said like which ones of these you found?
And I'll tell you, like, from my perspective, like that, this is all being planned out, and it's great work that's being done to sort of vision all of this out so that we do have a cohesive plan. But as things come online, those are all going to be conversations real time about how do police have access to the area? Getting the right easements is one thing, but also making sure that emergency vehicles can get through. Those all those all, I think, have to happen in due course, so we're not losing track of that. That absolutely will be part of the conversation. Yeah,
And I think it's also, you know, one of the principles here that's really important is that active spaces are safer spaces, right? Like our neighbors have eyes on things and we have good neighbors. And so we also, you know, the more people who are out, it's more eyes are on. So, yeah, public green spaces that makes a difference. Yeah.
We find it hard to get anybody to accept it, it's super, right? There's, all of it sounds fantastic, but it also probably sounds expensive. Well, maybe more. Like sponsors or to come in offsite, yes. Okay.
We are. So this lot right here is the comment substation. The comment substation and comment, this is the only property between Damon and Halsted where a path will not eventually be required by ordinance, because
they were there.
they were the first of the substation like way in here. We are in the final, they asked for information, they asked for a lot more paperwork, so we said they're taking our application seriously for a grant from comment to pave their existing gravel path
Nice.
and open it to the public. So again, they have an existing gravel path, we're asking them to take down 2 pieces of chain link fence. Either pay for that to be leveled, and maybe will let us take their money and go do it, or some, either are open to that. And we do have an organization involved to do this all the time, so we're working with Open Lands, which is generally in the business of building trails and providing like access to wild spaces. So that's our first example. We are also looking into some grant funding from other sources regarding the People's Gas lot, and it's a little too early to say exactly how that's gonna go, but I am comfortable saying that the stars could align, the pieces are in place where you have somebody who's willing to deal, we may have a funding source with there and they want it, so we're doing our best to make that happen, and we welcome partnership of our partner organizations and neighbors to show support for it. So there's some features here, the bridges as I pointed out, improvements around Parkside 71 and also along this Marketplace Access Road, also known as 29th Street, west of Ashland, which right now is overrun by large trucks, but they have been kind enough to set up concrete barriers. It's a little weird, but every little bit helps so people can get in and out of upper walks. That's something. This is a drawing of a perspective drawing of the bridge over Public Creek. And I want to point out that this is important, that it does go between 2 parks. This is all on public property, which first off makes it a lot easier because we just have 2 city departments get to talk to each other instead of many other parties. But from canal origins over here to Park 571 over here, and also for a lot of structural reasons, you want to do it at the narrowest point. There's also environmental concerns on Boulder Creek that we have to think about. So for a lot of it, that's the ideal spot to put it. Pending the final say from the engineers, but that's the goal. And so I want to show you, especially it's got more important with this. This is other good news we got last week. Our friends in Pilsen, a organization called Carol, won $300,000 of Jeff Bezos's money to revamp Canal Origins Park and communities, including shade structures, mural, feeding, nature play area, more and better designed spaces for fishing, bike racks, as well as to clean up the existing park there. So we're really, really excited about that. We're hoping that some of that momentum can help us also push for the bridge. We did have somebody who looked at it and first thing they said, "Where's the bathroom?" And we're like, "Well, doesn't help there from the source, but the bathroom's on the other side of the bridge." So hopefully we can make that easier access, and we're super excited that this is option. Moving on to section, C here. This is getting into Chinatown and closer to Piedmont Park, and it is a little bit more complicated because there's just so many details in this area. So a couple of things we'll point out.
Facilities that are built right to the river
Yes.
where there's not room, even if somebody new took over, to require, it's just not physically possible.
Yeah, and so you'll notice that here in the stretch where the path kind of comes back. Towards the river, these buildings all literally have their fire escapes and water, so there's nothing we can't go there. And obviously, we don't want to see them torn down. In fact, we're pretty excited, this one right here, and maybe Pacifica Development at,
Dermack and Grove,
yeah,
the Hoyt
Yeah.
building.
yeah. Just great, we like to see things get reused. So, to give you the breaking points over here, we do have some of those. So one of them are, so this is, the Hoyt building we were just talking about. And this is a city lot that's, it's projected to be sold later this year. We know of at least 4 entities that are interested in buying it, and they're all pretty friendly to our project, so we hope that's good. That lot will also be subject to the river design guidelines, so their little section of the path will have to go on the front. And also will connect around to Canal Street, they're already there. So I'm gonna backtrack for us. Actually, one thing. This is a little bit easier to do this. So this is the example property that we showed you, the only completed section. At Prologis on the Riverwalk. Correct, at Halsted, on the west side of Halsted. On the east side of Halsted, this is where it gets a little bit interesting. There is a railroad access road, and it's dirt, but it's already there. There's a knee wall, so we are negotiating with the railroad to get access to that area. To be able to split bicycles in and there on their existing access and pave it. That then connects to an existing dirt road that comes all the way up to the viaduct by the Union of Operating Engineers. And then continues to the Pacific Development, which we just discussed. CDOT, we've already engaged with CDOT about getting bike lanes on the existing section in Park Pacifica. And hopefully we'll find out what's what later this week. We had a meeting that was canceled because of the Microsoft outage. We felt
Can you let Zoe in?
Oh.
Can you just, on your screen, because you're the host,
Oh.
just hit admit?
Yes, please. No, quite the opposite. Actually, what we want to do is make it easier to get to Ping Pong Park. There's one of those ironies because Ping Pong Park exists. They got the land, but you couldn't get to it. But now that you have this whole park and everybody wants to get to it. So no, actually, we won't be taking anything away from the park. And in fact, we want to make it easier to get there so that more people can enjoy it. Perfectly fair question. So that's the thing I kind of wanted to point out right here, where you have a letter A and a letter B. This is the only section where we went to press with 2 distinct options because they're both a little bit complicated. And one is to go into the water. There are existing docks. We could negotiate with those landowners to change the nature of the docks so they could be used for both bikes and pedestrians and boats. And some owners in their initial conversation were friendly to that. Lawrence Fisheries was like, great, if we have foot traffic, we'll sell more fish. Obviously there's a cost to it. And then here it's a little more, there is an existing road that unfortunately no one wants to see that. It's now private property that goes around the marina. But both of these would get us right up to that bridge at the south end of Ping Pong Park. And if we can get pretty close to it, we may be able to work around the biggest legislative obstacle, which is if you go too far into the river, you need a literal act of Congress to do it. But if we just take a very small piece and keep it really close to the shore, it may be possible to do otherwise. So it is true that the bridge at the end of Ping Pong Park, the south end of Ping Pong Park, is probably the biggest engineering challenge that we would face in doing this. But it is not impossible, and we do have several ideas about how to do it. So it's gonna just kind of depend on how it plans out working with those surrounding. So a couple other things, that I'll point out. I want to point out too, that we are not just in doing this, this is also a likely scenario I did want to show, because it will take a while to work things under that railroad bridge. But I think, Tom, it is likely that in the beginning, for a period of years, that we will use the existing bike lines on Canal Street and 18th Street to go around and get into the current interest of King Tom, but that doesn't mean anybody forgot about trying to improve that situation.
And just to add to that, there is the 18th Street Bridge is scheduled for a rehab. In the next year, I think they're gonna start this. And with the Wells Wentworth connector, there is a north entrance to the park that will be accessible once the connector is open for use.
So you said that's gonna be fall?
I'm hoping that it will be
Okay.
fall. There's really nothing going on in the 78 right now. It's a beautiful road with a wonderful bike lane. I have my own concerns, and I think Alderwoman Dahl has the same concerns about full-on access to that road during the nighttime hours. It's a drag racer's paradise. There are raised crosswalks there. But with nobody and no activity over there, it just becomes ripe for, bad behavior back there. And I think from a public safety perspective, we don't necessarily want pedestrians back there sort of like after park hours, right? So we are working with CDOT and CPD on some potential tools that will help us over there. So, but none of this is really going to be put into place until after the convention at this point. Yeah.
I also want to show you
Yeah,
this.
I'm just gonna give you the 5-minute warning because we are 5 minutes away from being at time.
So I just want to point out that these pink areas are areas, we're not getting people along the river. We also want to make sure that people can get to and from the river. Especially by bike or foot. And so I additionally want to point out that we are looking at all of these other areas, surrounding areas to make this easier. Some particular areas of concern, things we would really like to work out. There has also a bridge proposed down here somewhere between 31st and 33rd, so that if you live on the Bridgeport side, you can get to the Marianas. We had a very, very initial conversation with one of the developers who's going to be working right over here, and offered to introduce them to our architecture firm who designed the plan, and they said, yes, thank you. So see how that goes. I also want to point out that, Castle is building a community center right here, which you may have heard about, that will also include some senior housing. And we're really hoping, that the part about bringing in additional vulnerable population will help us to really muscle for some of the pedestrian improvements on Archer Avenue, because now you're bringing in a lot more seniors who need to get to the L because they don't drive. And with the Archer Orange Line right across the street, that's a big deal. So we want to make this a lot easier for people also to kind of tie it all together, because it's not enough to be able to get along the riverfront. You need to be able to get to and from it, and to and from your house to wherever you want to go on the other end. I mean, if you are riding.
Yeah. And it is dangerous for cyclists and pedestrians to walk to get from one side to the other to get to the train. The sidewalks are very narrow on that bridge as well. So we're very well aware of the challenges.
Stairs from Archer.
Yes.
Which is not.
So
great for
we have
people.
accessibility issues as well that we've got to work through.
So we're hoping that, with each little piece that we get movement on, that we'll be able to, push for bigger and bigger pieces and eventually stitch it all. So, yeah, love to take your question.
Oh, yeah, chat, for May. I mean, people in town, it's to get to think on parts, the concern is leading part the increased congestion. You wanna, I can possibly have email or have a conversation.
Yeah.
Maybe talking about that and find.
Yeah, we have it like that, and I don't expect. I mean, it's like nobody's got a crystal ball, to be honest with that. I would not expect a huge amount of congestion. I think people who are, gonna go to the park would go to the park today. People who would pass through, should be there and not, but nobody's got a crystal ball, so let's have a conversation.
Great.
Anyone else?
Thanks for all the hard work on this, Kate. and Eladio, I mean, that this has been, I know, a long journey and a lot of work, and, you know, it's incredible to see the fruits of all the labor and the plans that you've laid ahead, so thank you, really.
Mark would get with you. And
And we'll post it, with the meeting too, and in the newsletter.
here, also that's a QR code to our letter of support, which we are asking neighbors to sign, and will be, obviously, the alderman knows that you're here. But will be shared with a number of public officials, including CDOT, IDOT, city, state, and county officials. Just to show that people really want this. And if you'd like to see more, there's also a full presentation, it's a little more in depth than what we did here tonight on MPDC's Facebook page. And finally, one of the biggest things you can told for support for plan is to go outside and play on the river. So more people use it, the easier it is.
Great, thanks so much. I'm gonna take back control.
Liz, what's the name of the street? I got 3 more for you.
Okay.
I sent you these pictures of the dumpsters.